Good morning, everybody. This is an exciting time. We're kicking off our 24-25 season a week from today. You've got our charter is headed to Florida to kick off the season, and there's a lot of excitement around this team. I thought personally, and I will share this openly, I feel that Don and Cam have done an excellent job this offseason in acquiring some great talent, some very exciting players, specifically in Lindholm and Zadorov. We have a lot of things to also be excited about. We have a new voice for the Boston Bruins, and Judge Surratt has done an excellent job from the games I've heard to date. And it's a culmination of our centennial season. So we kicked off in August 100 days of hockey. And there are clinics and different sorts of hockey events every day within New England leading up right up to our game on December 1st. I should mention, on a personal note, very sad to hear of Eddie Anderson's passing on Saturday. For those of you who don't know, Eddie brought American League hockey to Providence, Rhode Island, back, 32 years ago, I suppose. I was fortunate enough, one of the very first years of Providence, of the Providence Bruins being in existence, to work for Eddie. I have some very fond memories of him, and my condolences go out to his extended family, especially his wife, Linda. In advance of any questions that you may have, I wanted to get in front and just let you know that I have been in constant communication with Don and with Cam about the Jeremy Swayman contract negotiations. Don can clarify in his remarks regarding how those are going, but I just want to be very clear that we're in a state of constant communication regarding Jeremy, and our hope is that he's on the ice as soon as possible. With that, I'll hand this over to Don, or to Cam.
All right, thanks, Charlie. I too want to send my condolences to Eddie's family. Sad loss for the hockey community, what he did for Providence and hockey in the American Hockey League. I'm excited about this year, I really am. I think Don and his staff did a fantastic job this offseason in identifying needs that we felt we were lacking to go for a deep run in the playoffs. I'm excited about our coaching staff. With the addition of Jay Leach, I think we've got a great staff, one of the best in the league. I think our record has shown that in the regular season. Now it's just up to us to make it happen in the playoffs. So excited about this season, excited about wrapping up the centennial year with our game on December 1st against Montreal. That'll be a big, exciting game for everybody. But more importantly, looking forward to this season and getting ourselves geared up for the playoffs. Don?
Thanks, Cam. I will also echo sentiments to Ed Anderson and his family. My time with Ed, goes back in being a player and also in management, and just a great person first and foremost. But what he's done for the American Hockey League and in conjunction with development, says a lot about Ed as a person and his commitment. And I want to thank Charlie and Cam in terms of their support and what we had set forth this summer. I clearly haven't ticked off the one box that I'm sure we'll get discussed about today, and I don't have a definitive update in any way other than where I was with Jeremy. Continued consistent communication with his representatives, but we still have a gap to bridge, and we're going to try and continue to do that. But to both Cam and Charlie's point, and where we all feel our team is positioned in the camp that we've had thus far, we have some work to do. In integrating some guys that have missed some time, but we're excited about that. And that was specifically, in some of the decisions we made as early as yesterday with the intent for Monty to get in front of a couple of really, really solid practices, the group that he wants to put forth Tuesday night to get the reps that he wants. And then we'll reevaluate from there. Some of these players that people have referenced, camp is over with is not true. We still have some evaluation stuff to go through, and we'll continue to do that. But we're really excited about when we get the group finally on the ice, albeit it hasn't been quite as much as we would like. We're excited about the potential of our group and the work that Monty and his staff has done thus far. So,
thank you all for being here today. I got to say, I'm glad to have some backup up here with you guys today. These are foxhole guys that I'd be in a foxhole with any day. I'm just looking at how camp's going, and yesterday was our best practice at camp. Just the pace and the purpose and the intensity and effort, and it was what we need as we look forward to the opportunity of the regular season starting here in 9 days. And that's where my focus is continuing to finalize these last, what we have is 3 practices, 3 games left before we get going for real. And the opportunity with the additions that Don and Cam added during the offseason gets us really excited about what the Bruins are going to be this year.
Thank you, guys. We'll now move on to the question and answer portion of today. We have 2 wireless mics. We have Pat back there, and we have Hannah. If you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand. When it's your turn, please introduce yourself and your outlet and designate who your question is for. With that, we'll begin with Steve Conroy.
Steve Conroy, Boston Herald. Don, we're a week into camp with only a week to go. Swayman is obviously not here. How concerned are you that it's going to affect the rest of the team at this point?
Well, I think our staff has done a really good job of recognizing the players that are here, and that's where the focus has been. And Bob Asenza has worked, as I referenced early in camp, that he would work extensively with all of our goaltenders, but he feels comfortable with the work thus far that Korpisalo has put in, the game that he's played thus far, and Monty will probably comment further in terms of what his plans and decisions will be moving forward. I mean, we're getting late enough into camp that it's unlikely that Jeremy would be in a position, but today's a new day to continue to have a discussion and hopefully bridge the gaps that still exist.
And I would piggyback on that and saying where we are in camp right now with how well camp has gone, how well Korpisalo has done is right now, he's going to be our game 1 starter.
Kevin DuPont, Boston Globe. Don, dovetailing to Steve's question about Swayman, the emails that I get daily on this and have for the last 2 months are, why did they trade Ullmark before they had the deal for Swayman in hand? So I'd like to hear your explanation of that, and I'm wondering if there was something close to a deal at the time that you did that.
No, again, we made a decision to chart a course. Both goaltenders had asked to play 55 games. That's not possible if you're playing on the same team. So we decided to make a decision. We felt comfortable with Jeremy moving forward. We knew what the likelihood of a return was going to be in terms of the discussions I'd had around the league on Linus. Made a very difficult decision because Linus had been an outstanding Bruin. And how we were building out our team, that's just the areas that we were going to target as a result of that. And I don't regret that decision one bit in terms of the decision we made to move forward and attack some of the areas that we felt we could benefit from in the free agent market, and also from some players that were coming through the system. So that's the direction we took, and the two are not connected in that sense. Jeremy's taken his position. I respect his position, and to some degree, he probably respects ours. We just have a gap to fill, and it was also the intention to have a goaltender of Jonas's level in the discussions we had around the league again, and/or going to free agency to fill that spot, that we would feel comfortable in this position. Ultimately, we're a better team, as I've said all along, if Jeremy is part of our hockey club. That's my intention. That's my wish, and I'll continue to work to do that. I think Jeremy and the team are both hurt in this regard, and that's what I'll do. I'll just try and work hard to find a settlement point.
Jim McBride, Boston Globe. This is for Don and Jim. A lot of the eyes on this camp were on Fabian Lysell. He was sent down yesterday. What would you like to see out of him, and what does he need to do to be a more consistent NHLer?
Again, I referenced the camp is not over with. In all likelihood, we're going to evaluate after tomorrow night's game what lineup looks like for Thursday, and there will be several players that will come back and play, whether that's Thursday or Saturday. So camp is not over. The evaluation process really never ends. We had Fabian in situations in camp where he got reps with different players. Obviously, the game lineups some nights early in camp look a little differently, but that's what going into Madison Square Garden against 13 or 14 NHL guys, what those guys look like when they're playing against NHL players, and there's the evaluation side of it. The consistency piece, everybody sees the skill set that Fabian has, and we're excited about. Now, can we continue to allow him to fill in the gaps in terms of building a team game that Monty feels is a big part of what the Bruins have success is. And all young players go through that process. But he'll get another opportunity, and hopefully he takes advantage of it.
I don't think there's much more to add than what Don said about the whole situation.
Fluto Shinzawa, Boston Globe. Charlie, question for you. Ultimately, it's as part of ownership, it's your figurative signature on the check for Jeremy. So in that position, how does that make you feel that it's just, for whatever reason, the price just hasn't been right for the player?
Well, I can't speak for Jeremy. I can speak for ownership to say that we will spend to the cap, and we have spent to the cap just virtually every year. Management has informed me they need a little bit of wiggle room for in case of an injury or two. As you know, what NHL minimum salaries look like these days, that might be the delta of where we're at here. But as far as any personal one player is concerned, I try not to get caught in the weeds of that. I certainly don't begrudge somebody for a big paycheck. We're writing a big one ourselves to make sure that we have a winning club on the ice.
Connor Ryan, Boston.com. This is for Cam. You mentioned Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov as signings for this team. When you look at what they bring on the ice, what do you think has been maybe a missing element that they can provide for you guys this season?
Well, Elias, I mean, his 200-foot game is remarkable. I mean, I don't want to put him at the Patrice category, but he's, Patrice light. And Zadorov, I mean, a big back end like that, and it just solidifies our back end. I mean, our back end is big, and they got some beef to them, which I think bodes well in the playoffs. I mean, you got to get to the playoffs, but I think we're built a little bit stronger for the playoffs.
Emily Benjamin, NHL.com. For Cam, you mentioned it's just up to us to make it happen in the playoffs. How close is this team to being a cup contending team or winning a cup, and where does it need to go to accomplish that goal?
Well, I think if we get everybody in camp and everybody healthy, we're a cup contender. There's no question. I strongly believe that. I think our players believe that. I know our coaching staff believes that. It's just a matter of I think we're going to defend extremely well. Are we going to get the offense we'd like? I mean, that remains to be seen. I mean, we know who can produce. We'll still need some guys to step up offensively. Our power play, we talked about that. It slipped a little bit at the last half of last year. I think that can come back now that maybe we have a little bit more of a bumper position solidified with Elias. I think he likes to play there, so we'll see how that goes. But I feel like we're a strong contender if we got our full lineup.
Matt Votor, Mass Live. Do you have a feel for how long you'd have to have between Jeremy signing and Jeremy being able to play? Is there a time frame in mind for that?
Well, I think that, the longer you go without seeing NHL shots and the longer you go without seeing that kind of tempo and pace in front of you, whether it's a 5-on-5 scrimmages like we've been doing every practice or getting the game reps, the further back you get pushed. And that's why I referenced that, say a deal gets done tomorrow, there's only a possibility of 2 practices before. And, Korpisalo's done really well, and we're confident in him. So that's why I referenced him starting game 1.
Scott McLaughlin, WEI, for Don. Whenever it is that things started getting serious in terms of negotiations, at any point were you surprised by the ask from Swayman's side?
No, as Charlie mentioned, I would never begrudge a player asking for what he thinks his value is.
I was surprised.
I'm a little surprised that you might take the position that the Bruins haven't been aggressive or aren't willing to go max term, and some of those, comments. Like, at the end of the day, that is not how we've done business and don't intend to do business. There's a marketplace for every positional player, and we're firmly amongst that grouping. So no, no surprise, and I never begrudge a player for doing it. And you can't, when a player decides to take it to free agency when it's their right, they shouldn't begrudge us either. Like, at the end of the day, those are decisions that they're making for their own well-being and happiness.
I think overall, Don's done a really good job of initial offers to players. One of the things we talked about when he got the job was, being a former player, I'm not a big fan of low ball, high ball, figure it out somewhere in the middle. It's like, okay, get the right comps, get the right comp group, put the right offer on the table. And I think, Don's past has shown that he can get deals done. This is one that's just been a little trickier, that's all. I mean, I strongly believe that Jeremy wants to play here. I've asked him flat out, do you want to play here? And he does. I believe that they'll get a deal done. It's unfortunate it's not done today.
Kevin Dupont again, Boston Globe. My question's for Jim, but before that, since you say you were surprised, Cam, can you share any of the specifics here, be it what his ask is in terms of dollars or term?
Well, I don't want to get into the weeds with what his ask is, but I know that I have 64 million reasons why I'd be playing right now.
And I'll dovetail to that. There's been stories around saying he's looking to reset the goalie market. Do you feel that's the case?
I do, yeah, I do.
In context to what? Or?
Well, just what his ask is and what we believe his comp group is are two different things.
Okay. And Jim, it could be, 6 months from now, we're talking about you in round 1 or round 2 again with Florida. I think you came up short on team speed, team strength, and power play last year. Are you confident? You may disagree with that. If you do, fine. Are you confident these elements that you've added take care of the issue specific to Florida?
Well, what I like about our grouping this year is I think we have 2 lines that are going to be able to play 200 foot, and we're going to have 2 lines that are going to be able to be heavy of 200 foot. And I think that bodes well, as Cam had referenced, into playoff success. So to answer all your questions, I think it's a checkbox on all 3 of those. Being able to have, I look forward to the opportunity in the playoffs, no matter who we play, because we've got to get there first. But if it happens to be Florida, I like our group and where we're going to grow throughout the year to the success that we could have in the playoffs.
Mick Lodge, your Rink Rap blog for Cam. Kind of hit on this with Donnie last week, but the pressure issue. This team is coming to fruition. Your young nucleus that succeeded the old one is now Marchand's the outlier, and this group is now mature. They're young enough to have their legs, but they're old enough to know how to win. Do you feel any sense of pressure about this season now that this team seems to be put together in a developed way, that this is no longer a team of tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, there's always pressure in this market, which is fine. I mean, I as a player, you want a passionate fan base. You want them to care about the team, and that's what happens here in Boston. So, I think our players thrive for that. They understand what this market's all about. They've been here. Most of them have been here long enough to get a good feel for it. I don't have any problems with, having pressure attached with that.
Evan Marinofsky, New England Hockey Journal. Cam, Don mentioned 2 weeks ago that you guys have been in talks with Jim about a contract extension. What have you noticed over the last 2 years with Jim that's made him a good head coach and a successful one, and one that you'd want to extend?
His communication skills are right up there with some of the other coaches that have had success in this league. Very collaborative with his staff. I think he has no problem delegating, and I think they work extremely well together. So those things right there, tell me that we got a good coach. I think he's he's still learning along the way, as we all are in our positions. But I'm happy with the development of our staff and where we're headed right now.
Jim McBride again. This is for you, Cam. You mentioned the job that Don did acquiring talent in the offseason and remembering how you played in your game with the size of the guys that were brought in. Did you have your kind of handprints in those decisions?
Well, I think, we look at our if you want to call them failures, which they are in the playoffs, and you look at why and maybe what happened. And you take a look at your roster and say, okay, where do you think we need to improve? So we have those conversations, and then it's just a matter of, are the right guys available, or can you acquire those players, or can you sign them? And Don did a really good job of, once we identified those players, to be able to get them signed or acquired.
Don, back to Jim's contract situation. Do you think it's important to get it done before the season starts and before there's a lame duck situation?
I mean, I think it was really important to make sure that Monty knows that, when we went through the interview process, we hired a good coach, and we believe he's a good coach, and we'd like to extend him and to be our coach. And again, our discussions will be ours and be internal and where he feels his landing spot needs to be. But I think it was really important to make sure he knew what our intentions are.
Don, a question about Mason. First of all, did you see him play when he was at Culver?
Not at Culver, no.
Okay.
USHL.
Okay. Well, by the time his draft year comes around, he hasn't been playing the position for that long, and your amateur guys are recommending him. What made you decide as a staff, second-round pick is pretty high for a player that hadn't been playing D for that long?
You're right, he has not been playing the position for very long, and some nights he probably thinks he's playing forward still. But that's part of the thing we like about him, to tell you the honest truth. He's got confidence in his skill set. We just saw a really upward trajectory in a short period of time, and his receptiveness is the way the coaches that he was playing for was really eager to continue to learn while not losing the confidence and the skill sets that he believes he has, and it's translated pretty quickly to both the American Hockey League and the NHL. All young players get over their skis at particular times. I referenced that earlier of bringing in and solidifying our black end, so it allows Monty and his staff, to move the pairs around, and depending on how everybody's playing, to be honest with you. But I think he complements the guys we have, and he'll get opportunity. Now he'll get, in the way we are right now, second power play touches, which he had in the USHL. He's done in Providence. Now you got to be able to do it at the NHL level, and there's a learning curve associated with that. But Mace is a good kid. Spent a lot of time to get to know him as a person. When we first drafted him, and our development staff and Adam McQuaid in particular got to know him and spent a lot of time with him at Ohio State. And he's like a sponge, but he doesn't get derailed, when a mistake comes. And sometimes that's hard for young players. But he does a good job of sort of shaking that off.
Bridget Prude, WEI. This one's for Don and Coach, if you want to give your perspective as well. What made yesterday the right day to cut the players that were cut, including Fabian Lysell, and what would someone like Lysell had to have done to stay a little bit longer in camp?
So our decision, again, we mapped out sort of camp as a whole, in targeting, potential lineups early in camp, later in camp. Obviously injuries have dictated a little bit of availability for certain players. Player performance has also dictated a little bit of that. We made a pretty conscious effort right around this time to hone in on some quality practices with a target-specific lineup based on who was playing well, and with a clear intention that whether it's Fabian or other players that I referenced, they'll be back to play. That might be as early as Thursday or Saturday. So the evaluation is going to continue. Specifically, and I don't want to go back and re-talk about his good things, bad things. He's got a lot of talent, and we're trying to get him to understand a little bit more of the team-based game and apply that. Whether that's in practice with Providence, today and tomorrow, and then bringing it back when he does get another opportunity here. That's what you're hoping for. And all young players, that's what you're hoping for. There's very few ready-made players. You know, this is a league that chews them up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think when we look at, Don and I look at training camp together, we analyze a couple of things. And starting yesterday, was 10 days until game 1. We had 4 practices left. We had 3 games, 2 days off. So when you look at the way the schedule lays out, getting down to a smaller number where you can go one group where you're getting most of your group that's going to be with you to start the year, the intensity and execution and effort, everything comes up. And we need those in those last 4 practices along with the games to be able to have our team ready for game 1. And that's why we kind of targeted yesterday as the day where we kind of think we're going to do that. We can pivot at any time from that.
Anybody else? Steve?
Don, on Tyler Johnson, do you expect to extend an offer to him, or is it still in the evaluation process?
No, we're still evaluating it. It's you know, Elias will not play tomorrow night, so there's another example of Tyler has versatility to his game. Slide him in the middle of the ice if that's the way Monty ends up going. You know, you've got power play stuff that you know, again, the practice yesterday and just getting Elias back in that situation, some reps. You know, he's in a competition with several guys, you know, and we'll continue to evaluate that as we go forward.
Tubes?
Just a league question I can, Cam and Don. Line got hurt over the weekend. Doughty broke an ankle off a shot. Sort of regenerated the discussion about preseason games, their value, too many of them. Just your thoughts on that, about whether things should change based on these couple of injuries or a litany of others.
Yeah, it's a fear we have heading into camp and preseason games of staying healthy. It's a real fear. Whether the league and the players think that there's too many exhibition games remains to be seen. The CBA's coming up soon. I'm sure there'll be some discussions. You know, but it is a concern of losing one of your top players in preseason.
There's a balance there, Kevin. I mean, it's collectively bargained that camp was at 20 days, and it's necessary to have them. Right now, you know, you have to play 6 games. There's just that balancing act that coaches go through, the league goes through, players go through, how many reps they actually need to get ready for, you know, again, it goes from 0 to 60. You know, if you don't sort of incrementally move your way along there, are you really ready when the puck drops on opening night? So I think a lot of sports are dealing with it. Football's going through it as well in terms of, especially when you talk about, you know, physical sports in that regard. You know, I played 9 one year, so I don't think it, you know, we've come a little bit away from that. I don't think anybody's playing that many games. But that's just, you know, obviously we're trying to find the right balance point to get a player ready and you know, avoid injuries. I don't know whether we're ever going to get to that point where, unless we're not playing any games. But even in practice, like you're still ramping up practice and simulated scrimmage and drills and things that, you know, it's a contact sport, so you know, eventually it's going to happen.
Take one more here from Mick.
Donnie, Freddie's UFA at the end of the season. Are there plans to ignite a extension for him?
You guys are really, you know, bugging my phone. You might as well bug my phone if we're going to go down the path of every player, every person that I'm going to have a discussion about. I have had a discussion with Freddie's camp, 100%. You're 100% accurate. You know, Morgan Geeky's an RFA. I've had a discussion with his camp. Brad, you know, not to leave Brad out, plenty of discussions with Brad's camp, you know, in terms of trying to find a landing spot there. So, yeah, you know, we're as proactive as we possibly can be within the parameters of the league and the CBA when we can talk to players. But, yes, to answer your question, honestly, yes.